Okay, the wings are done. Ow. Hey. So all control surfaces are done. In front of me, I have the wings, all the elevator, rudder is all hooked up and kind of mocked up, like as if it was on the actual jet. And we're about to do a little test to make sure everything works. I did go through the power box and set up the output mapping. If you're familiar with power box, it's basically mapping your radio channels to what the output channels on the power box basically. I also hooked up everything for the retracts on the GS200 controller, the electrons that are great retracts that I love. And so once this test checks out, I think we're gonna move on to the fuselage. So let's get back to work. So here's the setup. So you've got my rudder here, elevators, and obviously the wings. So we're just gonna test the, and over here, this mess over here, believe it or not, is the power box and the GS200. That all gets mounted inside the fuselage, which is really gonna be the next thing we're gonna tackle. So let's just quickly do this. So over here, I've got this switch hooked up to retracts. Working great. We've got flaps, all working great. We've got our ailerons all going in the right direction, our elevator all going in the right direction, rudder. I've got to check the deflections and stuff like that. Once it's on the jet, I kind of do it then as one final kind of fine-tuning step. And then I have the brakes, which are on the slider on the back here. So I don't know if this will... Oh yeah, the brakes are locked in, so I have to kind of program that to not lock by default. Yeah, those are locked. So anyways, for the most part, I think things are looking good. I just have to check out what's going on with the brakes here for a second. But okay guys, so electron retracts, they're really nice. There's one thing with them that I think maybe some people don't realize, or when they realize it makes them nervous, which is if I were to just install this out of the box on here, right? Here's my thing. I'll just whatever. So what's gonna happen is there's a pin in here, and there's these set screws that'll clamp the pin in. There's quite a few. There's one on this side, one on both sides. The issue is, especially on a jet this large, I mean, you're pretty much guaranteed that at some point, some lateral force is going to twist this way and this way. Another thing that can happen is if the screws aren't, and maybe they back out, the retracts actually might fall out. This actually happened to me on my Odyssey, and unfortunately, I damaged the wing slightly, but it wasn't too bad. I was able to repair it. So, how do you fix this? Ooh. And now this pin's stuck in there. Okay, so how do you fix it? So the thing to do, is to Dremel these like flat spots on the pins, and that way when you can see they're maybe a millimeter deep, when the set screws go in there, they will kind of hold the pins in from rotating and from going left to right. So what I do is I will use a caliper to measure. So I'll start with the strut side, and I'll use a caliper to measure how far the screws are from the end. And then I will draw a line where the pin is, where the pin kind of sits from factory. And then I will use a grinding bit. I'll mark the spots off. Based on my measurements, I will mark the spots off with a marker. Where's my marker? Right here. So I'll do a marking here and here. I'll put this back inside. I will sight down the hole. I'll remove those screws and sight down the hole to see if I see two dark spots that I marked with my marker. I already did that, okay? So we're good. We double checked our alignment. Then I'll go and I'll Dremel the flat spots. One trick I do to do really good flat spots is this pin is kind of slippery and hard to hold in your hands. You also don't want to clamp this down because you'll mar the metal. Is just install this onto, basically slide this in, screw this opposite, reverse, and then hold on to this with one hand like this, and then Dremel with the other, right? And that will give you a nice firm foundation for getting some clean flat spots in there, no problems. I'm sure if you have a mill or something fancy like that, you can use that, but I don't have any kind of machining equipment, so this is how I do it. Now on the other side, what I do is once this is sort of installed, I'm trying to do this two-handed, I'm sorry. So what I do on this one, this side is, also notice the side that I only flat spotted one side of the pin, and it's the side that when the gears retracted down, it's the side that I can get access to very nicely with my screwdriver. That way I can just kind of keep an eye on it. It's just more convenient access. So then what I do is I'll tighten all this down once I Dremel that flat spot. So this will get all tightened down. I'll install this on here and then I'll retract the gear, right? And then I'll pull these two screws out, and these are larger screws. And what's cool about that is I can actually use my smaller Sharpie, which has a pretty narrow tip, and I can just fit that inside like that to do 2 dots, which will actually go on this side here, 1, 2. I'll flat spot that. I will install the gear. I will retract down the unit. I will clamp down the screws and just double check. The way to double check is to twist, make sure that there isn't any, you can put a little force into it and see if it'll twist, and then up and down, there shouldn't be any play there either. The one thing that's very important though is when you mark your holes, make sure that your wheel is absolutely straight up and down, that you don't have any camber in the wheels, because that would not be good, because now you'll have sort of cocked wheels on one side or the other. So you want to make sure it's straight. The way I do it, I just make sure that this is flush with, like, this flat spot here is flush with this flat spot here. So I kind of eyeball it, and generally it works out fine. That's how I do the flat spots on the electrons. Very important stuff. Okay, quick note about the composite RF hardware. It comes with this threaded rod, and normally it uses brass tubing, which you can see here. Now, I was originally using the brass tubing, if you've seen some of my earlier videos, and after some discussion with a friend, I have been convinced to maybe change it up a little bit. So instead, I'm going to use carbon fiber tubing, which I feel is stronger than brass a little bit. Also, it's the outer the diameter is a little bigger too, so it's a little thicker and stronger. That's the first thing. Second thing is I'm going to lay a bead of CA down here and slide this on so that this carbon fiber actually bonds to the threaded rod. I think, put it this way, I don't necessarily think the threaded rod is the strongest thing, and it's just peace of mind for me. And I mean, there's a reason why manufacturers make titanium turnbuckles and stuff like that. So I mean, these things can break. Not saying it will, but they can. And so I just want to make it absolutely bulletproof. And so by gluing this on here, before nothing was glued on, what will happen is if this rod fails, this will still bond to, this will keep this rod together, even if it fractures or fails or whatever in the middle. At least, it's, again, just peace of mind is all it is. You don't have to do this, I think. Obviously, there's been many jets that have flown with the composite RF complete stock hardware, and it's absolutely fine, but this is just the way I prefer to do it. Okay, one detail about these power box connectors. Basically, if you use like servo safety clips, they don't work with these because they're just a little too long. So how do you keep your servo connections from coming apart? Well, basically, you know how your dentist says always floss? Well, don't forget to floss your connectors too, especially if you're using power box stuff. So what I did here, you can see here, is you basically tie a loop of dental floss between the gaps here. And this will make it so that these connectors can't pull apart. But additionally, what I do, I don't know if I can do this one-handed, but I have this 3M Gyrotape, basically. It's this stuff here. I don't know where I got this from, but yeah, it's pretty nice and sticky. The top part is the covering. I don't take the covering off. I just cut a strip, and then I just tape that across the connector this way. So now you can see that's stuck on the top all the way across, covering both this part and this part, and that's goes over the dental floss. And yeah, there's basically no way this connector is coming apart. It's just no way it's gonna happen. So at least you know, and you have the insurance. Yeah. I forgot to put the safety sleeve wire on the servo side from my last video. Don't forget your safety wire.